So I was able to do an interview with Josh Soltan. He's the current M1 and lead pilot of Fat Albert for the Blue Angels, and he was just an awesome guy. We had a great conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy it, and we'll play it for you here in a second. But I wanted to first set up something that we touch on a little bit during the interview, which is that I'm actually working on a longer form video all about Fat Albert, what it is, what it does, and why it's so important to the Blue Angels mission. And as a part of that, I'm going to be talking to a lot of former Bert pilots and crew members all about their experience, because I want to make sure that it's told as much from their perspective as possible and as accurately as possible. So I'm going to have all these really long form interviews, and I thought that it might be kind of a waste to have all that footage and only splice up the best bits, the best sound bites. Why not just also put out the full interviews as well for people who are interested? So that's what we're going to do. And this is the first one. So if you like that idea and you like this video and you want to see more, make sure you go down below, hit the like button on the video, hit the subscribe button on the channel so you don't miss any of the other videos. It has meant so much to me that so many people have already done that and shown that support for me. And it's actually helped me to be able to get some of the access that I've been able to get and talking to these amazing people. It's just been an absolute honor, and I'm so grateful. And without further ado, please enjoy the interview with Josh Soltan. Hello and welcome to Aerospace Horizons. My name's Evan, and today I've got a very special guest on for an interview. He's wearing a blue suit, which of course means he's a current member of the U.S. Navy Blue Angels, but he's here representing the Marine Corps because he is the lead pilot known as M1 of Fat Albert, the team's famous C-130 aircraft. Major Josh Soltan, welcome. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Evan. Appreciate that. Thanks for having me on today. And that's correct. My name is Josh Soltan. I'm the lead C-130 pilot for Fat Albert Airlines here at the Blue Angels.
Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you guys have an insane schedule to keep, so it really means a lot that you take some time here to talk to us.
It's a long schedule for sure, but we enjoy it.
So what exactly does M1 mean? Like, what is your role on the team?
Right. So we've got 3 Marine C-130 pilots that are on the team, and each one kind of starts at the bottom to learn how to do their job. They show up to the squadron initially fully qualified. They're aircraft commanders. They can fly in either seat. They are already through all of their courses and everything that's out there. They've at least completed one fleet tour. And they're somewhere right around 1,200 hours, so they've got quite a bit of experience. But when you first show up here at the Blue Angels, there's a little bit more to learn from them, whether you're a senior instructor pilot at the top of your game, or even you're coming off your first tour. So starting at M3 is our first C-130 pilot on the team. It's his first year. He's generally going to be the safety officer for the entire squadron. So a lot of the duties between not only the F-18s and the C-130s, he's got a lot to learn underneath him. And on top of that, he's going to be learning how to fly the demonstration, mostly sitting in the right seat initially. There are a lot of calls that he's going to learn to make that eventually is going to get to the point where he has enough understanding of how the flight demonstration goes, where he can start moving over to the left seat, where a lot of the hand manipulation for actually flying the demo comes from. And the guy in the left seat for the demo is going to actually sign for the aircraft. That doesn't mean that just the left seat pilot is the only guy that's qualified to be able to do this. My M2 pilot is also qualified, meaning this year Captain Sam Petco. He's flown a few demonstrations already from the left seat, and he kind of graduated from that M3 to M2 position. He also coordinates all the tankers for all the F-18 pilots whenever they're flying show site to show site. So some of those long flights that they have to do, they can't make it on one tank of gas. So they're going to need to get some in-flight refueling from generally the Air Force is generally who we call up, and they help us out now and again. We are all tanker pilots in the fleet. That's the primary mission of a lot of the Marine KC-130Js, is to refuel in the air. So we speak that tanker lingo pretty well. So it makes it very easy for us to be able to help out the jets to get what they need to so they can fly their jets show site to show site. And then finally, when you get to your M1 spot, you're in your third year, your last year on the Blue Angels here. There's only two positions that actually serve with actually wearing the blue suit itself is the solo pilot, number 5, and then the M3. So we're kind of the continuity that helps keep a lot of the Blue Angels on track from things that we've seen 3 years ago. Helps translate really well in the future. So they kind of keep us around as we call them super old bees or really old bees or old grouchy bees sometimes because we've seen a lot and we're able to help out in those kind of instances where people may have not seen certain things happen before. So in the end, M1 helps cover down on a lot of the maintenance side of the house, working with my own maintenance team. I only have about 12 maintainers that are able to keep Fat Albert up at any point in time. And that's only about one Marine maintainer per shop. So I only have one guy who's qualified to work on the engines, one guy who's capable to work on the airframe itself, as well as all the other systems like some of the hydraulics or tires or avionics or electric shop. Sometimes the F-18 side are able to help augment that a little bit and come over and give our guys a hand. But during our winter phase maintenance time, those guys are the only ones working on it, their specific system. And that can be quite the task. We have to have some pretty top of their game Marines and maintainers to be able to figure out how to make that thing work. So I work really closely with my maintenance team to make sure everything's covered down on. I'm not the maintenance officer here, but I cover down on a lot of duties that are like that. And then the operations side, I kind of work as like a operations officer, scheduling our flights, making sure our proficiency remains high for all the pilots as well as the flight engineers. We still have a lot of standards that the Navy and Marine Corps expect us to maintain. And for us to be able to do that, we have to be able to track that at least on paper to show that we're doing things by the book the way we should be. So outside of the maintenance and the operations side, and then just kind of being that continuity across the board, there's plenty to do for an M1. Unfortunately, I got one additional duty. I'm also the senior Marine here, so generally, the majors that are on the team will serve as a senior Marine. And a lot of that is just administrative duties, making sure the Marines are taken care of career-wise, making sure their families are getting what they need while we're out doing our jobs. And then just kind of ensuring that we still have a good flow of people to replace us because we're only going to do this for a couple of years. And we're going to go back and put on the green suit again and fly all around the world, forward deployed like we talk about. And then finding that next person to come replace us, there's another burden of the paper trail that we have to communicate some of our upper echelon headquarters units to make sure that they know who's going to come take our spots in the end. There's a lot of application process for that as well. So that's kind of all the duties that I've been dealing with over the past couple of years and how the finish is in sight, but I'm ready to hand this off to the next guy. I know they're going to be able to do it, but the fatigue levels build up on you for sure.
Yeah, so it sounds like you're just doing nothing every day. It doesn't sound like anything at all.
Yeah.
That sounds like 6 jobs at once, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that if I'm not doing something, I'm probably looking for something to do. I don't like to sit idly by. A lot of the guys around here, I'm sure, get frustrated with me. Like, can you just sit still and just not do anything for a little while? I'm like, no, that's what sleep time's for, man. We gotta go. We got things to do out here. And that's just my personality when it comes down to it. I feel like there's always something to be doing at any point in time, whatever it is.
Well, I think that's why you're on the team. So let's take a step back. We've obviously talked a little bit about Fat Albert, but I wanted to just hear from you. What exactly is Fat Albert for those who aren't aware? And what is the mission statement of the Fat Albert team?
So Fat Albert is our C-130J J model within the team. It is the primary mission of it is the transport and movement of a lot of our maintenance personnel, our support personnel, as well as about 32,000 pounds of cargo. So it's packed back there like a tuna can full of food and friends and all the parts that we need for each show site. It's a little bit different than some of our counterparts that fly around. We bring everything that we possibly need at any point in time in the back of that aircraft. If we need something more, say one of the jets end up needing an engine, Fat Albert will fly through the night to actually go to locations wherever when the engines might be. We're back here to Pensacola, Florida. Get that engine, get that part, and then bring it back. And our maintenance personnel will work on it through the night to make sure it's up and ready to go for the next day. And that doesn't necessarily just mean the jets that they're going to fly. A lot of the time we have a spare engine or a spare jet available. So in the event one of the jets go down on the line, they can jump to that spare aircraft and still take off and complete the show with 6 aircraft.
What is the range of Fat Albert? Like how far can you travel to do those pickups?
It kind of depends. So I get that question quite a bit. Hours wise, I think we made about a 7 hour flight before, depending if we're going east to west or west to east, kind of gets the jet stream. But we can fly between here and Seattle fully loaded, no problem. We made one flight between San Diego and Hawaii, which I think is the longest stretch that we had to go over the top of the ocean for a little bit and not be able to see any land. But it only holds about 42,000 pounds of fuel in the wings. So when it comes down to it, compared to our fleet C-130s, we've got about 20,000 pounds less than we're normally used to operating with. So it definitely can create a little bit of a time where you're watching your fuel states very closely to make sure that we're going to make it to the destination. Fortunately, most of our flying happens over the U.S., so if I needed to stop down and find a BP station real quick to fill back up, not too big of a deal. We can jump down there, refill, and then get moving pretty quick. But for the most part of the time, we can make all of our flights in one go, one leg.
I've heard a mention of Fat Albert Airlines. Can you explain a little bit like behind that name and what Fat Albert Airlines is?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of a fun little phrase that we kind of put together. So Fat Albert comes, we first were on the team about 1970. And the story that's been passed down is one of the other team members' kids came out to the line and he saw the first time that the C-130 pulled up and he said, "Look, that's our new C-130 over there that we're going to use for the team to move us around." And the kid looked up and he kind of looks like that cartoon character, Fat Albert, and it just stuck from that point on. We like to say Bert's always bulking, always lifting heavy. So it may be kind of a thick aircraft, but it does a lot of work for the team. So all that work that it does, at 32,000 pounds and 42-ish of our maintainers and administration personnel, every little lick of that is used to put on a good flight demonstration. As soon as we land, we get all the people and cargo off the aircraft and we start setting it up for our flight demonstration so we can max perform the C-130. All within the envelope of what the aircraft's capable of. We're not necessarily doing anything truly aerobatic necessarily, but we'll pull the nose up about 45 degrees nose high. We'll put on a nice parade pass. It's a 60-degree angle of bank right in front of the crowd so they can see all the top of the aircraft. And we'll fly it nice and low and close to the crowd so they can really see what it's like. And with the new J model, a lot of people love to hear the engines because this might not be as intimidating as some of the loud jet noise for some of their younger kids. So we like to say that people love Fat Albert and they like the jets because we don't see anybody leaving the show early when Fat Albert's flying around.
Can you walk us through the crew of Fat Albert?
So currently on the team, it's about 7 crew members total. So we got 3 pilots on the team, and that just creates a little bit of redundancy. We only need 2 pilots to fly the aircraft. That extra pilot there that first comes on board is learning how to be a Blue Angel. On top of that, learning how to fly the flight demonstration. It's a lot of low flying maneuvers close to the ground and very low tolerance. We expect them to be perfectly on heading, not off airspeed by more than a knot or two, and then not off their altitude by more than a couple 10 or 20 feet max. Anything more than that, we're going to call them out on a procedure or even a potential safety in that respect, because we are flying so close to the ground and we want to be on our tolerances all the time. So we only need 2 pilots. The third one's learning how to do it. each one of us, aircraft commanders, can sign for the C-130, so we're all aircraft commanders. As soon as you sign, you are in charge of that aircraft from takeoff till landing, everything safety of flight. The last couple, probably some of our most important, are my flight engineers on board this aircraft. They're in charge of pre-flighting the aircraft and getting all the systems in line, and even troubleshooting and working on the aircraft itself. So not quite like a flight mechanic, but not too far away from it either. I've got four of them. My senior advisor also is Gunnery Sergeant Brandon Wisher. And then I've got, I think we'll go in order, Staff Sergeant Colin Hanlon. And then I have Staff Sergeant Lauren Song. She's actually my first female flight engineer that's been on the team. And we call her Mama Bird because she's always coming around making sure we're on our game and keeping us in line and keep us in check. She's probably got one of the most infectious attitudes on the team as well. So we're glad to have her on board. And then our last one is Matthew Thompson. He's our smiley guy. He's always keeping us fit. He's a big CrossFit style kind of guy, running around, sweating his face off, getting everything where it needs to go, and being our heavy lifter on the team as well. So we only need 2 flight engineers to get Fat Albert from location to location, and 2 pilots.
And when you are in transit from show site to show site, you mentioned you bring along all the maintainers for the jets as well. When you're fully loaded like that, sort of how many people are on board?
Right. So the complement of the crew will be about 4, we'll say, just for standard. And then 42 of our maintenance and support personnel. So anybody from the medical staff to the public affairs, to some of our admin folks, to working on the engines for the jets, to our crew chiefs, and then some of our senior enlisted leaders as well are all sitting in the back of Fat Albert along the sides of the fuselage, with their feet kind of facing inboard, facing each other. But they'll never see each other because in between all the rollers is just packed custom pallets. We have 6 pallets. Each one of those pallets, 1 through 5, holds a different shop's tools, some of our handouts, some of our lithos that we give out to the air show sites for each one of them. And then on top of that, if we bring anything back from an air show site, we'll put all of our own roll bags and our hanging bags, all our uniforms. And sometimes even some golf clubs make their way on there now and again if they think they're going to have some extra time on the show, just to kind of enjoy some of the links here and there.
Maybe you can answer sort of a mystery I've always wondered about. You mentioned 42-ish people on Bert, and there are many more than that on the team. Obviously, the 6 jet pilots or 7 jet pilots fly themselves there, but there are more people on the team. Do they just stay back in Pensacola, or how do they get to the show site if they're there, if they're not on Bert and they're not in one of the jets?
That's right. So during our winter training period, they'll downstairs figure out kind of what show site they're going to attend. Everybody's from a different walk of life, a different place in the U.S., and they'll kind of figure out where the home shows for each one of we call them the troops, and put them as a preference so they can choose to go to those shows. Not everybody gets to go to every single show. Unfortunately, I wish we could carry them all on board. Maybe Fat Albert will get upgraded and we can bring all 150 of us on every single show site. But right now it's only about 42 plus the crew complement to bring us somewhere around 57 or 58 total that'll be on the aircraft itself. When I talk about the lower numbers, I say ish. Sometimes we calm air people to certain locations so that by the time that we land and everybody's getting off the aircraft, at least a couple things need to be set in place. So the number 7 pilot will be the first one to arrive, usually the day prior to us, to make sure that the hangars are ready to go. Fat Albert needs a forklift to be able to actually unload all these pallets. My flight engineers and my maintenance personnel actually are qualified in most forklifts that are out there at each show site, and they'll actually unload Fat Albert themselves with that forklift wherever we're at, and then we'll bring it into likely a hangar, just so if some of the elements aren't raining down or hail, for that matter, is going to get to some of our high-priced parts or tools, and they'll just unload that thing and get it set up, and the maintainers will start jumping into their different show spots of where the jet's going to park at, where our rental car's at, where's the tower at, who are the people that we need to know at each show site. So that first hour, once Fat Albert arrives first ahead of the jets, is a little chaotic. Everybody's running around, but everybody unfortunately knows what their role is, and it allows it kind of look like almost a quick setup of a circus, uh, real quick like. But if you were to see it as an outsider, you say this is a mess and they're not organized. They have no idea what they're doing. But you give them about 30 minutes and everything's unloaded and everything's in place. That's when everything starts to kind of crisp up and start looking like a Blue Angel air show site.
My next question was going to be like sort of what does the typical week look like for the Bert crew, but we've already sort of gotten to the show site. So once you're down on the ground, like what does the weekend of the show look like for the crew?
So we'll generally arrive about 9 a.m. and we try and set that time no matter where we're at in the U.S., whether it's Eastern time or Central time where Pensacola's out. But as we start getting further and further away, the show times start showing up to being 4 a.m. and 3 a.m. with 6 and 5 a.m. takeoffs. That's not a lot of fun for us, especially when we're trying to get some sleep the night before and we've been working all day the previous day. So sometimes we'll leave on a Wednesday, sometimes we'll leave on a Thursday. But generally it's a Thursday departure. It's about a 6 a.m. takeoff time to arrive about 9. They have about an hour to set up. So as soon as Fat Albert gets to their parking spot and shuts down, they all jump off the aircraft. They'll go over and get a briefing from one of the other enlisted crew chiefs. We call them 7 Geek. They're in charge of working with the number 7, the narrator, who flew there the day prior to get everything set up. They'll get their brief. All the officers will jump off the aircraft. They'll run over to where 7's at. We'll get a briefing from him. He'll likely motion us over to where the rental cars are at. We'll get all of our bags and everything put inside of there. Head over to the briefing room. Answer any phone calls or emails from the morning that we were missing out on while we were on Fat Albert. Fortunately, Fat Albert hasn't been updated to in-flight Wi-Fi. That's coming to a newer, faster Fat Albert too soon, I hope. Maybe we'll get Starlink one day. That'll be great too. But right now, you just kind of have to put everything on hold and airplane mode until we get to the show site. Once everybody's kind of in place, they'll start setting up for the jets. They're going to taxi in the location, and my flight engineers will unload Fat Albert with whatever the forklift from the air show site they have for us that day. And sometimes we show up and that forklift doesn't work out for us. Maybe it's broken, or a couple times it ran out of gas on us. So the guys have to work really quickly to get creative with how to get the show load off the aircraft. Because as soon as the jets land, the show is started at that point in time. We got to take back off that afternoon to go do our checkpoints and circles. And this is for Fat Albert specifically. The jets are going to fly all day. They'll fly their transit there. They'll fly a sortie mission to fly in their checkpoints. And then they'll fly a third mission for a demo that day. So Thursdays can get to be the longest day for the entire weekend. But all necessary flying that we need to do to put on a safe demo as well as a professional looking demo that everybody's expecting to see when they come out for the weekend. So Fat Albert will take off last. We were the first ones to take off in the morning, and just like before, we'll close everything down with our own circles flight. And that's for us to find all of our inlines, our altitudes that we're going to maintain, where's the terrain at, where's that tower that wasn't on the imagery that local TV show stations decided to put up randomly that we don't want to smack into. Are there any cables or anything like that flying around? One thing a lot of people don't realize is the hospitals, a lot of the time will have their life flights flying around, and we're not about to get in the way of a life flight. We want to make sure that those people are taken care of. So we'll put our demo on hold to allow them to take off and fly away, and we'll be in good communication with them. So we're always kind of keeping a cognizance of where those hospitals are at as well. And then potentially little tiny airfields. A lot of people don't check the writing on the wall of there's a Blue Angel air show that has 5 miles around the center point of wherever the air show's at, and they'll fly right into that area. So during that time, we'll find where the other airfields are at and making sure that people are staying on the ground and not taking off while we're flying around as well, because we need a sanitized airspace. And after we're done with all of that, we'll come back and land, shut down, do a quick little debrief, and it's usually about 6 or 7 o'clock that night. We'll turn in, head in, check in for a hotel. If we got some time, we'll get a quick workout in, since it was such an early morning as it is, just to kind of get the blood back flowing again and get into a rhythm. And then that night is Bert night. Every Thursday night is Bert night. And that's just a way for the team to kind of break bread, get together, kind of have a second to take a breath, throw on a Hawaiian shirt, because Blue Angels are required to wear a collared shirt anytime we're out and about and kind of dress a standard above. So our Hawaiian shirt is our kind of like let our hair down for the night, enjoy ourselves, talk about things, see how everybody's doing for the day, and then get ready for Friday practice, Saturday air show, Sunday air show. Keep doing that each week.
And then you fly back on Sunday night?
So Sundays right now, Fat Albert isn't doing a flight demonstration. So we'll fly people on Friday for a demo, which is a practice day. We'll bring some riders that are nominated through the air show site specifically. And then after that, we're kind of in our show mode where we're actually putting on a demonstration on Saturday. We'll do a full demo then. And then on Sunday, by the time we arrive and all the jets are up and working again, we will start loading up the show load again back into Fat Albert and get ready to go as soon as the jets land. And as soon as the jets land, they refuel them. Sometimes they re-put the smoke oil back inside, but we're just sitting in the aircraft waiting for them to finally fire up their engines. And if they have any issues on the line, their crew chiefs will troubleshoot it. I'll start up my engines, and then if all jets are out of the line and ready to go, I'll load up the crew chiefs, and we'll follow the Congo line of Super Hornets all the way down to the beginning of the runway, and we'll take off right after the jets do so we can get back in time. A lot of our families are sitting back here waiting for us to arrive, so we try not to delay as much as we can. We don't quite fly as fast as the F-18 does. We try to. Maybe in a dive we'll catch them, but we've only beaten the jets one time back to NAS Pensacola, and I haven't let the boss live that down yet, that Fat Albert arrived one time ahead of the jets. And that was just because he was out tooling around, taking a long time for a beach run, and we were close enough to where I took off just quick enough to where I snuck in my landing ahead of him, just wanted to see what it was like. Quickly shut down, and for the first time we greeted all the jet guys back in Pensacola. Normally they greet us because they beat us here for as soon as we land and shut down. So we've got one so far, one chalkboard mark for Bert compared to the thousands that the jet get all the time.
Yeah, so it's like, what took you so long?
Yeah, that's it.
Obviously, you're a member of the Marine Corps. What specific aspect of the Marine Corps do you represent as a C-130 pilot? Like what capability that the Marine Corps has? Like what were you doing in the Marines before you joined the Blue Angels?
Generally, the C-130s, their primary mission back is air refueling. But we have a lot of ancillary duties as well as assault transport, meaning the same thing that I'm doing here of taking troops and supplies to all kinds of areas, to small little assault strips in the middle of the desert, or maybe a beachhead, or maybe an old airfield that's been closed down a long, long time. We're able to operate out of that. That's kind of what the C-130 is good for. We're not a heavy lift aircraft, kind of like a C-17 or a C-5. We're more a medium to light lift aircraft, able to kind of sneak into really small airfields, operate in really tight environments. Fortunately, we're able to fly on all kinds of conditions, so flying through weather doesn't really intimidate us all that much. We have de-icing systems on board, so we're able to fly through some pretty good icing and come out the other side no problem. The jets, they'll fly over the top of it, not have any issues with it, and I'll fly right through the center of it. I might have to slow down a little bit as soon as my systems pop on because they take a little bit of horsepower away from it. But generally, we have no issues making it through most storms. If it's a severe style icing, I'm likely going to try and fly around that kind of stuff. But we've got our great onboard weather system, weather radar, that allows us to kind of pick through a lot of that. And then we just recently, a few years ago, we had ADS-B a little tiny transmitter added to our repertoire. So we add that to our iPads as kind of an overlay to just give a little bit more situation awareness. And it does a good enough job to allow us to interpret what we're seeing on our displays from the onboard weather radar itself to be able to pick around a lot of that stuff. There's nothing worse than flying at 2 in the morning after getting a part for the jets, and an entire wall of thunderstorm stretches all the way from Fort Worth to New York, and it's between you and Pensacola, and you got a mission to get done, and you got to figure out how to get around it or fly through it. And most times you're ended up having to fly through it because there's no way to get around it. It just stretches too long and take too long. We've done that a few nights. I've had some pretty wild nights of seeing some beautiful thunderstorms between kind of the Midwest region between us and a show site up to the north. Some of the other missions that the Marine Corps does is aero delivery. So delivering packages via parachute to all kinds of locations, maybe a forward operating base where Marines or Army or you are out front. And it's too long of a distance to bring a truck to. Well, we can fly over the top of that, and we have great systems that will actually help us with getting the cargo delivered within, I will say, 50 yards of the location that they want it actually delivered to. And then it'll calculate all the winds that it's taken in from all the sensors. And as long as you're able to kind of fly a pretty stable platform, the spot that those boxes are going to get delivered to is pretty good. With that, we still maintain the ability to let troops jump out the back of the C-130. So either a static line where you kind of used to that Normandy setting of all the troops jumping out with all the little tiny Army guys with their big puffy parachutes, or even the guys that are jumping out and doing the high-speed stuff with their oxygen on board and they're jumping 40 miles away from their X that they're trying to glide down through in the middle of the night so nobody can see them. Those Delta operators, those SEALs, or their MARSOC kind of guys. We'll work with them as well so that we know how to operate in their environment and give them what they need because we are a support aircraft. Our job is to support these guys. Let's see. What else we got? Night vision goggles. We'll fly a lot of the time on night vision goggles to blacked out airfields. There'll only be about 4 lights to create a little tiny box for us to fly into, and then 1 light at the far end of the runway itself to give us something to kind of line up to. 3,000 feet, 60 foot wide by 3,000 foot LZ, as we call it, or a landing zone. That's what we kind of train to. That's what our standard is to allow us to get into and out of, to allow some of these guys on the ground to either get the people there or get some resupply there, potentially get some people out of harm's way really, really quickly is what the C-130 is good for. And then we did have a close air support variant that was able to kind of employ some ordnance. So we had some Griffin missiles that we were able to shoot out the back of one of the door systems that we would replace, and you put 2 little GPS guided missile systems and a pallet that would roll on the back with the typical sticks, the controllers that you'd expect to be able to control the sensor systems on the aircraft, as well as launch. The secondary one would be our Hellfire missile system that would be off the left wing. We could carry 4 of those Hellfire missiles as well. And then on the front of the nose, we'd have our M-ball or our sensor, so we could actually kind of zoom in on some of the areas that we potentially want to engage with that system. So between all that, those are like the big missions that we're able to accomplish back in the fleet. And that's where I'm headed to when I'm done here. I haven't been doing a lot of those missions for the past 3 years, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time refreshing on those and then working back into my instructor quals for those and getting ready for some of the new pilots coming out of our replacement squadron locations. We call them FRDs right now. We got one on the West Coast, one on the East Coast, and they work with our students, and then they bring them to the fleet, and then the instructors that are in our fleet get them really kind of ready to deploy and work through all those kinds of mission sets.
The C-130 is a jack of all trades, really. You can shoot missiles out the back of it.
That's right. The Marine Corps expects it to be that way. They foresee it being around for a long time, and I think Lockheed kind of sees it the same way. It's just the capability for us to be able to refuel and extend a lot of the ranges of our different platforms for the aircraft. It really is. People say like to say a force multiplier. I like to say that it just extends the game time for everybody, so they can keep playing for a little bit longer. I think the big one that we do is we're able to refuel a lot of our kind of our helicopter style aircraft. So they come off a carrier or a small deck far out in the ocean, and they got to fly a long way to shore. Well, the carrier doesn't want to get any closer because they'll get in the range of whatever it is. Well, the C-130 can come in, give them a little bit of gas to give them what they need to be able to get closer to their landing zones. And we're fuel CH-53 53s quite often, the Osprey community, the MV-22, and then all other services as well. I've worked with Air Force, worked with the Army with their 60s. Um, I don't think I've worked with the Coast Guard. Maybe I have once out in Hawaii for a little bit. But then the Navy, obviously, as well. Navy Marine Corps team, we're always working together.
That's great. And so, in terms of like the capabilities of the C-130, obviously the primary mission of Fat Albert is to support the team operationally, but you do the flight demonstration as well. Can you talk a little bit about like the capabilities of the C-130 that you demonstrate in that in the flight demonstration piece of it?
Most definitely. So Fat Albert, there's only one like it. So if you ever get a chance to see it, that's the one C-130J that you're going to see around the world. There's nobody else's a C-130 painted like that, nor do we operate that aircraft. It's it's a lot. It's a big change coming from the fleet. So the KC-130J that I'm normally used to flying, it can be a lumbering beast at times because it has so many things hanging off of it. So we have normally in the fleet with the gray aircraft, you're going to see two refueling pods, one on each wing, and you're going to see two externals, one on each wing. It's going to give us that extra fuel that we're able to give whoever we're refueling wherever we go. That's also the same fuel that we're burning, so I need to keep that calculation of how much I'm giving away as well as how much I need to be able to fly that aircraft back to wherever I need to land to get refueled at. A lot of people forget about that the fuel that you're giving away is the exact same fuel that you're burning when it comes down to it in your engines. With the Fat Albert, I don't have that extra advantage with the extra fuel. But what I do have is I have a slick aircraft. So that paint job that they were able to put on there looks great. It's a little bit different than the old C-130 T model. The whole top of the aircraft was painted white. We just have a little tiny teardrop paint job now. So that kind of helps it stand out from the old T model from back in the day. It's also got 6 blades, vice the 4 blades from back in the day. So that T-looking position from the old T models is now traded in for some quieter, more aerodynamic props, which allows us that 18,000 pounds of horsepower that we kind of advertise. So without that extra stuff and the slick paint and these better propellers that are more efficient, I actually create now a drag index from being a 52 out in the fleet down to 0. So I have nothing really holding me back, which allows me to accelerate a lot quicker and actually keep up a higher speed during our flight demonstration. So I'll start out at the beginning for our takeoff. Our takeoff starts out with our brakes being held, and we set our takeoff power, meaning we put them in the clips. We give our power levers, tell the engines and the FADEX, give me every single drop of horsepower you can possibly give me, and we'll hold the brakes. We'll check all the engine instruments just to make sure everything's good. The right seat pilot will make a couple calls to the show center just to let them know that our MO and our doc and everybody that's kind of grading us, we're about ready to go. And then we'll call 3, 2, 1. We'll release our brakes and pretty much throws you in the back of your seat because all that horsepower is now trying to launch you down the runway. Not as quick as our jet brethren, but a few of the people that have sat on the seat are quite shocked by the amount of torque and really projection that you end up getting out of a C-130 like that. We'll Brief it up generally for about a 70 knot yoke exchange. So the right seat pilot will be actually keeping the wings level all the way down the runway, while the left seat pilot has his hand on the nose wheel steering. So to move the nose wheel and actually steer the aircraft on the surface, we're actually countering the nose with our left hand with like a little tiny steering wheel to the left of the column. And only the guy on the left seat can actually move that steering wheel around. If you think about other aircraft, they're using their feet to actually move the nose wheel as well as their rudder. We'll do that a little bit. I'll lead with a little bit of right rudder, just knowing that the aircraft's going to have a little bit of torque to the left. And then their P factor and aerodynamics is going to want to pull me to the left. I'm going to counter that with some of my right rudder, but most of it's going to be the nose wheel control. At 70 knots, I'll take control of the yoke because now I have more authority with my rudder pedals, and I'm able to keep the nose kind of tracking straight down the runway. And then the right seat pilot will let go of the yoke and allow me control of that, and his hand will move over to the throttles. And from that point on, he's controlling all of the power for the aircraft. So more power or less power, the right seat pilot's handling that. I'll have both hands on the yoke itself, which is a little bit different from the fleet. The fleet, generally, the guy in the left seat is maintaining control of the power and the yoke. So that's a little bit different of something that we kind of got to train to when we come to the Blue Angels and Fat Out for the flight demonstration of not having your hands on the throttle itself. And then obviously I got my feet pretty good off the brakes and then down onto the rudder pedals, and keeping the nose tracking straight down the runway until 85 knots. 85 knots, the right seat pilot's going to call rotate, and I'm going to do a yug maneuver where I'm actually just going to kind of pop the nose and then push over the top to get the aircraft to plane out. Because we're not fast enough to plane straight down the runway. We're kind of still sitting a little bit of butt heavy, I'd say, until we get a little more airspeed to get to plane. But I'm going to do a kind of like a little skateboarding maneuver to pop the nose, level it out, and we're going to try and shoot for roughly about 6 to 4 feet is what we're trying to get to toward the end of the season. We'll start up in the upper echelon of 7 to 8 or 7 to 9 feet, bump it down to 6 to 8 feet, and then end by the season of 4 to 6 feet. We're going to do 4 to 6 feet. We're going to bring the gear up right there as soon as we see a positive climb. And then we're going to maintain that all the way down to 150 knots. We're going to accelerate all the way down. The gear is still coming up, and I still have flaps set. So I'm G limited to no more than 2 Gs on the aircraft. So once he says 150, I'm going to start a nice, easy, slow, very slow pull back to about 1.6 to 1.7 Gs until my nose is about 45 degrees nose high, and I'm going to cancel that and then hold that until my airspeed drops down to just above 110 knots. Once I hear the right seat pilot say 110, I'm going to push the nose all the way over until level, and I'm going to cancel to keep a straight level flight. And during that time is where you're going to get that negative G sensation. On average, about negative 0.4 to negative 0.3 is what we'll end with that maneuver. And we'll start accelerating it up, clean up our flaps at that point, and then be a clean, slick aircraft to get in front of the crowd for the parade pass. Any questions at this point? That's just the first maneuver there.
Well, I was going to ask, this seems like as good a time as any. Everybody always laments the loss of JATO. But I know that the C-130J model has some additional thrust. Can you talk about how the J model compares to the T model in terms of, not having that JATO available, but being a little more powerful?
That is probably the most asked questions across the board, and people are always telling me, no, I saw you do the JATO takeoff last week. No, sir, I think the last time was 2009, and hopefully you get a chance to kind of talk to a few of those guys that have done it in the past, because I remember it when I was a kid, seeing the JATO take off and was still blown away by it, and people still talk about it to this day, and I still have hopes to one day the guys will be able to get something like JATO onto the aircraft. They had 4 bottles on either side. And I think if I were to add 4 bottles, I would overspeed every single control system on this aircraft if we were to fire off those bottles. We do the same takeoff that they did back in the day, so it's not a whole lot of a difference in change when it comes to performance, but we have about 18,000 pounds of horsepower on the aircraft, and so aerodynamic the way that the J has been upgraded from the past C-130s, that I don't know that they're going to get too much more out of a prop-driven aircraft than they've already kind of juiced up this C-130 as it is. So comparing the two, and from the guys that have sat behind us on the bunk and gone flying on the J model, the guys say that this thing definitely has more horsepower, and the ability for us to be able to kind of move it around at the speeds that we're doing it at compared to the old T model. They say it's pretty impressive. So I'll go with that for a win in my cap for now. After the high performance climb, as we call it, and we level off and we're accelerating and cleaning everything up, we're going to position ourselves back behind the crowd. We want to get out of the way of the crowd so that the narrator who's standing out front and talking about all the maneuvers gives him a chance to be able to kind of clean up what's coming next, who's on the crew, introduce the next maneuver. So fortunately, we're pretty quiet, so a lot of the time when we get behind the crowd, nobody can really tell where we're at, and we disappear just over the tree line or over the horizon. We'll descend back down and find a kind of a 45 degree in line from where the center point is at, and then we create 40 degree lines off of that, and then we have checkpoints that allow us to come back in to be able to find that perfect apex point for our parade pass. The parade pass is a 60 degree angle bank turn, and 2 Gs is our goal every single time. The way we'll set it up, we'll find our run-in heading, and then we'll find our checkpoints to overfly, and we'll find our altitude right around 300 feet at the beginning of the season. At the end of the season, that's ending at 200 feet on the backside. You got to remember that the C-130 is roughly 132 feet long for the wingspan. So I'm at 200 feet and I'm a 60 degree angle bank turn. My wing's not too far away from the ground, and that's about as comfortable as I'll probably ever be at this point to be able to do this maneuver. But we'll come from a crowd right in general. I will start at 260 knots, and we'll say 300 feet. And to start the roll, I'll actually give it a little bit of in the direction of turn rudder to help actually move the nose that direction. So before I actually engage into the ailerons to start the turn, I'll bump the rudder down, which will bump my nose to the left, and then I'll roll the wings full control with the yoke. Since we're not using the stick like the jets do, the yoke goes all the way to the stop, and we'll keep that roll in until we 60 degrees, and then I'll cancel it and then give it a little bit of back pressure to capture 2 degrees. If I do everything right, I should have what we call an apex center point, meaning that my wings are perfectly straight up and down over the top of the center point of the airfield. And Doc's standing there giving us that grade. And if we miss it left or right, we obviously did something wrong. Maybe we weren't on our line. Maybe we allowed the wind to move us around. We didn't have a good wind in line. Or maybe I didn't put enough G, or maybe I put a little bit too much G that day. But we'll go back and kind of look at some of our tapes and then our GPS tracks and kind of see what actually ended up happening, and we'll try and fix it for the next day. I'll roll out 40 degree outline, pull the nose up to 15 degrees, roll it just to kind of set up for a teardrop for the flat pass. And we'll go behind the crowd again to allow the narrator to do his thing. We'll turn back to the show line, which is parallel to the crowd line itself, and we'll start a descent down at 260 knots, down to about 40 feet is our goal by the end. And we'll hold 40 feet on our radio altimeter, all the way down the line, and just kind of give everybody a chance to see how quickly Bert can kind of transit so low to the ground from crowd left to crowd right. Pull the nose up again, crowd right, as we kind of exit in front of the crowd, turn out in front, and we'll set up for a head-on maneuver where we just come down to about 200 feet and then dead center, fly over the top of center point at 200 feet, 260 knots. Once we get within 0.5, we'll start pulling the nose up again, 15 degrees. Try to cross the crowd at 500 feet is our contract with the FAA to make sure we're not overflying the crowd any less than that. And we'll set up for a downwind, start configuring for landing. So about 1,150 feet, we'll level off on a downwind. We'll do a quick mental math to kind of figure out where the wind is at and what our density altitude is, so we can start setting up for a slowdown with the flap configuration. We'll turn to final. We'll look down. We have a heads down display that has all kinds of lines of where the show's at, and we'll line up our turn director on it, I guess you could call it, to allow us to line up right over the top of the runway. The runway will actually kind of disappear below our nose, so we won't be able to see it. So we'll just be holding a heading and then waiting for a certain DME from crowd center or distance from crowd center. And once we hit that, depending on the math that we kind of figured out for the winds and everything that's corrected, we'll configure flaps to 100%. And then we'll slow all the way down to about 100 to 95 knots on our indicated, push the nose over to 25 degrees nose down. So we're at a pretty good dive toward the runway. So we went from the runway not being in sight, we'll see the runway for a little bit, and then the runway will disappear because I got this overhead panel right here that blocks so much of the distance down the runway. And we'll hold that till 120 knots, and we'll start a nice, easy pull back. And hopefully, if everything looks nice, I should see the center line of the runway start appearing right in my windscreen as we start lining up for that assault landing. We'll accelerate down to our max flap speed is 145, so we don't want to overspeed that, but right around 138 knots is what we're watching until we line up down the runway. Nice little touchdown, pretty firm. We want to get on the ground as soon as possible because we're probably only about 2,000 feet away from the center point. We're going to start easing onto our brakes. I'm going to transition, like I talked about before, the right seat to the left seat, the yoke. I'm going to transfer that back to him. He's going to keep the wings level. I'm going to move my left hand over the tiller wheel to keep the nose tracking down center line as we decelerate, and then start moving the power levers back into our reverse or our beta range to start kind of putting some air out in front of the aircraft itself and help slowing us around. But our brakes are going to be the primary way that we're going to slow down. We got 99 million foot-pounds of stopping power, and we are very, very light with fuel and nothing on board. We can get stopped pretty quickly. My flight engineer will stand up behind me and he'll start getting the flag all prepped up and ready to go. And the right seat pilot starts turning the lights on at this point to kind of give a little flash to the crowd. I'll slam on the brakes. By slamming on, it's just kind of a firm depress and then release them real quick. The nose will actually pop up a little bit as we start reversing back into place. And our goal is to turn and face the crowd perfectly head on with our lights flashing. The American flag, Old Glory, goes up through the top of the escape hatch, and my flight engineer jumps out and starts giving a wave to the crowd. And FAT hour's complete for the day. While that's all happening, my other flight engineer who's sitting in the back of the aircraft is actually opening up the cargo ramp and door, and he'll start giving me some call outs from the back for the reverse since I can't see behind me. He'll be assisting me to allow me, hey, more turn, less turn, hold turn, stop turn, 3, 2, 1, you're good back here, sir, roll it out, and I'll roll it up front, and whatever we get from that point, depending on the size of the runway, which can always be difficult. If you got a narrow runway, you may not to get all the way back sometimes. You don't want to go off the edge. And that'll be about it. The crowd at that point is finally fired up. And the jets start taxiing at that point. And we get to enjoy the rest of the show ourselves. Wait for the jets to finally come back. And we all shake hands for the day and head on to the next event, whatever that ends up being.
Yeah, true fans, start packing up and heading out to their cars as soon as the jets start going. Fat Albert's done, so.
Everybody, unpack up. If you want to stick around, the jets, they're going to do something.
They're going to do something, all right. Yeah, that's for sure. I have 2 questions here to wrap us up. Number one is, what is your favorite part of being on the team and being a Fat Albert pilot?
I think that's more of a kind of a general question. So my favorite part of being on the Fat Albert team is exactly that. When I went through flight school, selecting the C-130s really kind of was a joint aircraft to me, meaning it's kind of like a team sport. I came from playing a lot of sports back in the day, and I liked being a part of a team in that case. Having another pilot there right with you, having the flight engineers, you get really close. So I think my favorite thing about the whole part of being a Blue Angel is getting to know and being with the fellow Blue Angels that are on this team. We really get close together, and I don't think I've ever experienced I don't want to be cliche saying like a family, but it really has become kind of a second family for that matter. So being on this team, the job itself is super rewarding for what we're doing. It's very challenging. Um, but I think the biggest piece that I, even here shortly when I end my time, I think the biggest thing that I'll look on and be most memorable will be the time that I spent with some of the other guys, my Fat Albert crew, my flight engineers, my maintenance team, the amount of work that I've seen them put in to be able to get this aircraft up in the air, and the magic that they have worked in times where I didn't think we were going to get a chance to fly, and they were able to make it happen and get it done, just kind of as a testament to the rest of the Navy and Marine Corps team, for that matter. Um, we all represent it, and you can see it in our mission statement of who we represent. But when they finally get together and you all have that common goal and that mission together, and you just start to sync up so well, I think that piece is going to be the part that I miss the most leaving this team. I think that's really special for this team.
Okay, so I'm going to leave you with a kind of a softball question that I want to make sure we'll get into the longer piece here. But would you say it's fair to say that the Blue Angel demonstration as it exists today would not be possible without Fat Albert?
I have to be humble enough to say that I think it still would exist, but I can't say that it would be as professional as it is right now and as successful as it is. I think the boss and the other pilots that fly the Delta demonstration, they understand that what we bring to the team allows them to be a known quantity and repeatable. I think for a little kid who only has that one Saturday that's able to go out on that fence line and see Fat Albert and those six jets perform 32 show sites across the country, I don't think that would be possible and repeatable without Fat Albert's effort to allow those guys to go do what they do out there. Our whole job on this mission is to kind of inspire that culture of excellence. And if we don't have all six jets out there doing that excellent flying that we expect of them, I don't think Fat Albert being on this team would allow them to do that with as precision and professionalism as they have for the, what is it, 50 plus years now, 55 plus years since 1970 that we've been doing this job. And I think that's why Fat Albert's not going to go away. I think Fat Albert will evolve into just another support platform. And just like the Marines have been doing, is supporting the Navy's mission for littoral support and warfighting across the world and forward deployed, the Marines to this day are going to still continue to do that job out there with our Navy counterparts, giving us a Uber ride to wherever we need to go across the world. Well, this is our way to give back. I'm giving Uber rides and Fat Albert as the Marine Corps Assault Support Transport for this team. And I think as long as the Marines are able to continue to keep that excellence of professionalism within the team, then it's not going to go away.
Excellent. That's a great answer. I know I said that was the last question, but I did want to just open it up if you had anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to, like, you desperately wanted to make sure you got in. Anything else that you wanted to say here before we wrap up?
I don't think I have anything desperately wanted to say. I think what I will add with the whole piece is kind of a plug for some of my maintenance team as well. A lot of people don't realize how much like actual work can go into such a large airframe without other support around. If you think about the jet side, they have a lot of redundancy built in, multiple people that can work on the engines, multiple people that can work on the airframe itself. It's a real testament to the Marines that are on this team that they're the only one, and we hire them as knowing that they're going to be the only one, and they're only serving a couple years within the team, and they go back to become officers. They go on to be senior enlisted leaders. Some of them get out and work in public service and become senators and governors and all kinds of things across the board. This team really elevates a lot of the people that come here to the next level that they maybe had not had that opportunity in the past if they were to stay just in the normal fleet setting. So I think it affords the people a lot of opportunity to grow and challenge themselves to become that next best themselves that they possibly could be. I think that's my last plug for kind of what the team represents on the inside that a lot of people don't get to see. Glad to be here.
Glad to be here. Well, Josh, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time again and sharing your insight with everyone. And until next time, and please enjoy the rest of your time as a Blue Angel. You've only got a few months left here, so enjoy it, and we'll see you out there on the flight line.
Sounds great, Evan. Thanks for having me on board, and good luck to the rest of the people you'll be interviewing here shortly. I appreciate your time.